So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege for me to start this discussion about the sourcing and responsibility within the coffee. The title was Coffee World from the Social Economic Perspective, but we can touch many of the topics that are connected to it, and we would like to focus on the green coffee and different partnerships that are around green coffee and the farmers and the buyers in global north, as we call it, or around us. We have a great three guests. We have Ushi from Panama Varieties from Linz, from Austria. We have Henrik from Populus Coffee from Berlin. And we have Roberto from Kilimanjaro Coffee from Barcelona. And I would just, we would like to start with a short introduction, each of you, what you are doing, what is your kind of philosophy, whatever you would like to present yourself. Anyone would, lady first? Is it going? Yeah, perfect.
Works.
So,
Work.
Ushi.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Ushi Zimmermann. I'm the owner of Panama Varietals. We are a specialty coffee importer for coffee exclusively from Panama. So we only import coffee from Panama. We buy there directly from a variety of farms and sell our coffee mainly in Europe, also directly to small roasters. So we see ourselves a bit as facilitators of direct trade for you, the roasters. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Henrik. I'm a roaster and an owner of Populus Coffee, a roastery and a cafe in Berlin. Been operating for a year and a half, and our coffees we source from a sole importer, one importer in Oslo called the Collaborative Coffee Source. And we have an emphasis on buying this, working with the same people from year to year, and focusing on the kind of sustainable coffee supply chain throughout from the farm to the end consumer. And I think that's why we also work with the single or only one importer, that it's easy for us to, we know how they work, and it's easy for us to trust them, and we know that the coffee that we source is up to our standards.
Thanks. My name is Roberto. I work for Kilimanjaro Specialty Coffees. We are an importing company based in African coffees. We source mainly micro lots of African origins: Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and basically our aim is to source unique lots with outstanding organoleptic characteristics, but also we put a lot of effort and work in ethical trading, which is working in an honest way with the producer. We work mainly with small producers through cooperatives, and we try to pay a good price. We don't do charity, we pay a price that rewards quality and hard work. Also, we put a lot of focus in traceability for the roaster, for our clients, so he knows the full information of the coffee, of the lot, the specific lot that he's buying. That for us is very important. And the fourth point will be sustainability. We visit the origins, the farms, the cooperatives every year, sometimes 2-3 times a year. Now in November I'm going for the third time to Africa. And it's a lot of work, but for us it's very important to care about the sustainability, environmental, but also social and economic of the coffee communities where we source the coffee. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, well, maybe one more round of just to imagine the sizes of of your, let's say, production or of your company. So if you can put it in any kind of like framework, like how much, I don't know, containers or how many containers or what is the amount you are working with?
From one country, we generally don't fill up one container.
Okay.
It's always relative because we work based on lots.
Mm-hmm.
We don't small lots, so sometimes depending the lots we like, and also we select coffees regarding quality, but also depending on the market we are focused. We cannot sell 90 plus coffees at 20 euro per kilo, you understand?
It's clear.
So we need to find a balance between quality and price that allow us to offer these coffees in the markets that we target, which are Spain, basically, South America, and also Eastern Europe. So the quantity will always depend on the lot selection. But we don't, for example, from Kenya, we got this year 4 lots, and it was like 200 bags, something like that. And a container will make 320, you know?
Okay.
So it's not that, it depends.
So basically you are focused, but from the sourcing point of view, you are focused on African coffees from different countries.
Yes.
And how many countries is it? Like
4.
4 countries.
4.
So it's Kenya,
Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi, and
Burundi.
next year I'm going to Ethiopia.
Okay.
But
So
also
it's gonna
we
be fun.
source coffee a little bit from Sumatra and from Peru.
Okay.
But it's our main focus is
Africa.
Africa.
Very good. So from your perspective, so how
So
big
how
is
much
the
coffee
roastery?
we go through? We have been operating the roastery for 6 months now, so I would say that we go through a pallet a month, which is around 600-700 kilos green coffee, and yeah, it's a growing constantly, but that's where we're at the moment.
Panama is a very small coffee producing country, and since we are exclusively focused on Panama, we also buy only microlots from all the farms. This year we imported a bit more than 2 containers, so about 40 tons.
Okay, so we have kind of like overview what you are doing. You touch and some kind of like buzzwords that are within it. First is microlot, second is sustainability. And so what, how would you define the both actually? What does it mean for you, sustainability? And what you see as a microlots? Because there is big discussions of what is a microlot and also with the sustainability. So I would like to have some kind of like your view on the both of the things.
I think Panama is a good example of a country turning around its production and make it a sustainable coffee production. Panama is again the coffee producing area is very small. About 10, 15 years ago, they were exporting or producing double the amount of coffee they produce now. And when there was a real price drop in coffee overall, they realized they can't sustain their industry or sustain themselves by keep competing with quantity. So very early on, in my opinion, or for the industry, they started focusing on quality, on producing quality. They got themselves trained. They went international. They formed their own specialty coffee association. They implemented their own kind of cup of excellence competition, followed by an auction. Among themselves in Panama, there are no cooperatives, no state agency that oversees, controls, supports the coffee industry. So it's all initiatives from the private farmers that share among each other also a lot. They share knowledge, they visit trade shows together to really promote Panama. So it really came as a push from the producers, this focus on quality. And the farms nowadays are, again, small in production, but they can all live of it, and they live well of it because they focused on this quality. They produce a high quality, confidently ask a good price for it, but because they know what they can offer and what they produce. And I think the main way how they got there is also their environmentally friendly approach to production, because in the end, it's the only way to long-term or sustainably produce a good quality. And like you said before, I think quality is in the end the only way we can increase the value for the coffee farmers, because people are going to pay more for quality in the long run. And so I think it's a good model to look at. I mean, again, it's a very special situation, no cooperatives, etc. But it's a good model to look at for other countries also, to see it works, the downsizing and the focus on quality.
Sustainability-wise, I think Panama is a very good example of the other end of the spectrum, where there's Panama and maybe Costa Rica and places like this, working infra and better economical situation in general, and then there's the other end, like for example Burundi, which is a country that's devastatingly hard to grow coffee at. I just yesterday, I think it came out yesterday, the Long Miles Coffee Project blog post from which went through all the years that they've been in production, from 2013, I think, or 11, or something like that. But it's been nothing but hardships there, and from war to complete drought, where there's no water to process coffee with, or no petrol to run generators to sort coffee during when it's dark in the nights, and then collection points have been made illegal, and it's incredibly crazy. And yet they've managed to grow their production. They have a very good team of small farmers, well, it's all in all, it's kind of very a success story, which is kind of devastating at the same time. Like it's very hard to keep going as co-op or.
I got the point. But on the other hand, even in the most devastated countries. One of them definitely can be seen like Ethiopia, which is the fifth, poorest country in the world. You have people that are quite well off because of coffee. They are simply people that are able to make a good business with the coffee, and that there are people that really made money on the coffee. In general, Ethiopia is exporting coffee in value of $700 million. The truth is that Germany, on this same coffee, making $1 billion. So the point is, the kind of the story that is about the sustainability of the coffee itself is also the part of the chain, who is profiting from the rich coffee. I mean, Panama is a great example of well-developed country that even more developed coffee within. So the most expensive coffee nowadays come from Panama, where of course it's astronomy. It's a one farm, and it's a great marketing. But it went to to this kind of level that no one else can achieve. So I think definitely it's a very small niche, but it's something to focus on, and. It's clear that this is not going to be, an espresso capsule from farm of Peterson or Lamastus or who else, but there will be, others who will simply get $1 or $2 more for a kilo of their coffee, which is basically what they are looking for and what you are talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the problem is when the market is regulated by the New York price of coffee, then we reach an incongruence in terms of what people that are producing high-quality coffees receive against what importers and roasters are making here in Europe, in America, in Japan, whatever. You know, I think when we talk about the specialty coffee producers, we cannot negotiate in New York prices, you know, because doesn't match. It's not sustainable for them.
No, but on the other hand, I mean, all of you are example of someone who is not touched to New York whatsoever. I mean, your price is not fit to New York, or your price is not fit to New York either. And you are not buying while looking on New York how much is the daily price of coffee.
Definitely not. And I don't think it's touching specialty coffee in general that much.
I think it is. I think there are many importers working that they say maybe they don't do only specialty, they do a lot of commercial coffees, but they are working on New York. Many that promote themselves as specialty importers.
No, okay, I mean, I got the point, but the thing is, I mean, for you and the companies that you are representing, you are going totally like independent on what is the daily price on the New York. I mean, just to explain it, there is like, of course, most of the coffee is traded through exchange that is based in New York. I mean, the Arabica is based in New York, and the Robusta is based in London, and these trades are actually like the contracts that should be fulfilled in the future. So basically, the people are buying the future coffee in one of the ports, most of the coffee through Hamburg or other ports. So what the coffee that you are representing and actually the farmers that you are representing, it's a different coffee. Simply, it's not the coffee that is this like mainstream, partly, unrecognized or kind of like unclear what you buy on the New York, right? So this is a different story. And then part of what you are doing is that you are actually added the value through your knowledge of the coffee, but also through selection of the coffee that you are interested in, right? Maybe can we talk a little bit about it, how you select the coffee that you work with? Like, what are the lots that you are picking? What are you actually interested in when you are tasting and looking for interesting?
I mean, we definitely go with the market, which are our customers. So we take that into account. In general, we say we're trying to select interesting coffees that are hard to find somewhere else, which most of our farms are producing. They are focused on producing small lots of special coffee, be it through processing. There's been a lot of experimentation now in Panama with several processing types, fermentation, etc. So people are always trying to also experiment and push the borders and take feedback that comes from Europe and try to implement it. So yes, I would say we're trying to look for interesting coffees. Maybe a point there to the selection. For us, it's important to and it goes in the direction sustainable, to have a long-term relationship with the farmers. That means also, if it is a bad year, like we had, for example, last year, it was a very wet year, especially just before the harvest. So we had a lot of cases from our farms where we had more defects than normally, which is very rare for Panama, but a lot of black beans, Quakers. So we try to also in these years try to find a solution. We stick with the farmers. We talk to our customers and say, this is the situation. Of course, the price will be different, but we still try to source the same or similar amounts and try to find solutions, but keep that relationship with each farmer also through those times.
Sorry, I lost the question.
Basically, the question was how you decide which coffee in your case, which coffee you will have in your roastery.
Well, for a roaster that's working with the one importer, it's fairly easy. There's only so many sources that I can select from, just simply because our collaborative doesn't source from everywhere. They have, I think, 9 sources at the moment. So
So basically, you have 9 coffee at the moment.
Yeah, well, I don't have coffees from everywhere. It's but we try to source coffees that we think. Well, first of all, I worked for Kaffa, which is a sister company for Collaborative for some time, and I got to know some coffees through them. For example, people that they'd be working along in Honduras for, and through that I've kind of, and I made some travels with them as well. So I kind of, for me, it's important to kind of be able to buy from the same farmers from year to year. Hold relationships, no matter if the harvest is scoring a little bit less or a little bit more, but we like to keep same people, same farms, same co-ops, and work with the same exporters that we think are doing a good job. So, like for example, if I talk about Longmas again, it's a very bad year. It's a terrible year with no water to process coffee from. But anyway, we want to source coffee through them, and we're gonna find some kind of a solution for that.
Okay, but are there kind of like moments that you would decide that okay, this is not. I mean, let's say it's not our quality criteria or something that you would say we do not buy this coffee.
Well, I haven't faced that situation yet, since all the coffees are 86 plus, and they have been copped many times before. So yeah, for us, like it's simply, well, it's a matter of selection. We just we get to select from really nice coffees, and it's we also pay for that price, but it's something that I want to do, and I want to be sure that I know the background of the coffee and I know the quality, and it's easy to offer it for customers as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, for us it's different because we don't buy coffee if we haven't go to the country. So we travel to the country that we want to buy coffee from, and we meet with the farmers, with the cooperative, and we see the work that they are doing. We don't go there and tell them how to do things because they know better than us, you know. We stay with them in the farm, see how they do their farm work, and after that, capping is a fundamental, very important tool for us to decide which lots are we going to select. And depending on each country, we find help from local Q graders that know the origin and help us to decide to match the scores of the coffee, so I can make a decision, not only based on my opinion, but I try to get some advice from these people and it's very important that Q grader is from the country where I'm buying the coffee from, because it's not the same a Q grader from Indonesia that a Q grader from Peru will have a totally different approach, perspective, experience, ideas of the coffee. So the Q grader has to be from a local Q grader. Okay. Yeah, and based on that, and after that we cap at origin, and then I cap the pre-shipment samples in the lab here in Europe, and and after that we make a final decision. It's not only about quality, it's also about trust and the work that I find, because sometimes it's not about sourcing the best lot, but a lot we mainly focus in 84, 88 points lots, and but also what is very important for us is the relationship with the cooperative, with the farmer, that we can trust him and we like the work he's doing,
I have experience with it. We have to switch one of the Nicaraguan partner that we work with because of the child labor on the farm, and even we tried to work with them, it didn't really work out. So we like the coffee, but we didn't like the situation on the farm. We also have a very similar experience from Ethiopia, from quite a known farms or washing station, that we experience things that we wouldn't, that we had to reconsider the buying. And of course, in the coffee in general, there is a lot of marketing. There is a lot of stories that are. There is a lot of course, other things or tools like, let's say, the whole certification stuff and so on. Is it relevant for you, any type of certification, or what is your view on certification? I mean, in case of Panama, it's kind of like it's a different little. It's its own certification. But what is your approach towards any type of certification, or if you believe in certification, or what are your opinion?
As you said, I think Panama is a bit special in that case. I think there are definitely certifications that have its value because they provide some kind of security for the consumer, which is hard to communicate otherwise. I mean, we are now talking to a small group, and you can tell person by person your experience and what's going on in the country, but you can always tell only so many people. So I think certifications have their value. I don't have that much experience with it because in Panama hardly any farms have certifications, some Rainforest Alliance, 1 or 2 organic, but that's about it. If you ask the Panamanian farmers, they always say, come to my farm, the birds and the wildlife and the water streams, and those are my certifications. Because again, that's the guarantee to produce a high quality of coffee for them. And I think in our approach with our clients, that's this approach that we want to go as direct as possible. We want to be as open as possible. We organize trips that are not buying trips. Anyone can come who is interested. We want as many people as possible to see where the coffee comes from, how it is produced, because we think Panama is a good example. And what was the question again? No, I think that was, the certifications, so.
Yeah, I agree on that. Certificates definitely have their place, but for us, I don't think we don't even have an opportunity to buy certificate coffee, like certificated coffees. They are all based on relationships, all based on like trust, and that's way more important for us. And yeah, coffees get asked. There's customers for that for sure, but that's also my responsibility as a roaster to inform about where our coffee comes from, and that it's usually meeting way higher standards than certificated coffee, and the money and kind of the benefits are actually going closer to the coffee producer, and also the staff of the coffee producer, which is something that many people don't consider.
It's clear, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Okay. Well, yeah. Do you sell some certified coffee?
We don't believe in certification. We don't like certification. We believe in quality and relationship and ethical trade. Now, there is some cooperatives that are already certified. So the coffee that you buy, we buy the coffee because we like it, because they like the producer, and we like the coffee, the lot. And it already comes with an organic certification, for example, but we don't look for it. And we don't believe in certification because most of these certifications are held in Europe or the United States. So basically they are taking profit margin from the producer to a company that is run like a company. You know, it's for me, I understand, as you said before, there are many people that want to see that their coffee is organic or fair trade or whatever. But I believe that when the final customer gets educated in terms of coffee, and when he tried his espresso or his V60 Chemex at the coffee shop, he can decide by his taste, this is a good coffee, and I'm willing to pay €3 for it, or €2 or whatever, you know? And he doesn't need to have an etiquette, a certificate to kind of support that is a good coffee, you know? I believe more in education rather than certification.
Okay, that's totally understandable. I would like to ask you, because these are like a kind of like deep and complicated questions. So let's relax and let's get to the real stuff. So I would like to ask you, like, what was like in the season that let's say is finishing now, or before the next season starts. What was your best coffee that you taste not during the festival, but during this year? And why was it, or if you have any kind of like story to the coffee that you would like to present, or it doesn't have to be the one, it can be like few selection that you really were amazed by.
Well, as I said before, we always try to look for interesting coffees, and Panama has, fortunately or unfortunately, this fame of producing this best coffee, most expensive coffee in the world, the geisha. But there's so much more in Panama that's interesting and amazing. Maybe to pick one out, we have the Finca Hartmann, a real coffee producing finca in 4th generation, 5 siblings. They all live on the farm. They all live off the farm, so they make their money on the farm, off the farm. And they were the first ones to plant Maragogipe in Panama, which hardly any of the other farms plant yet. And that coffee, processed naturally, is definitely one of the most outstanding coffees I've ever tried, because it's incredibly complex. It's heavy, sweet, fruity. Only if you look at it, you think you know it's something special. You look at the tree, and the leaves are huge, and the beans are huge, and the cherries, and it's incredibly juicy, sweet coffee. So real surprising coffee.
So Finca Hartmann and Maragogipe. Yes. Okay, well, that's you still sold out. Oh, I just wanted to. Okay.
For me, I think it has to be. I have to say that it's one of our coffees. So that's the coffee that that I get to taste the most. It's a Gishubi, a red honey bourbon from Burundi, Long Miles coffee as well. One of the first naturals coming from Burundi, and incredible coffee. Really super nice, complex, fruity, really clean. Like we went through maybe 600 kilos, and I think we maybe went through like 5 potato beans, which used to be the synonym for Burundi coffee. And that's kind of also one factor that affected my decision that the coffee is like incredible, because it really was super clean. And you can really see how the coffee has progressed from like a couple of years ago. It was, all the Burundi bags were like really hard to work with then.
Just to explain, because maybe not everyone understands the thing.
Yeah, potato.
The potato defect is a type of defect that actually changed the taste of the batch that you really have a feeling of that you are drinking a potato soup, or kind of like potatoish taste. And so it's a type of defect that is in the coffee. And even if you roast, it doesn't really change. Even worse. So yeah. Thank you.
And it's hard to know what produce the potato defect, because we still don't know what is it. Some people say it's a bacteria, or
it's the anesthesia bug. Well, it's mostly common explanation for that.
But it's not scientifically proved that is this bug. And this is a problem that people in Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo, they also have it. They don't know how to fight, or how to approach this problem, because it's a big problem. They produce, as you say, wonderful coffees. I was in Burundi and Rwanda this year, and their coffee is amazing. But sometimes one bean can be infected with a potato and will ruin the whole cup or the batch,
Well, the problem is, especially the problem is, it is for the roasters when they are deciding, as you mentioned, it's really difficult for the roaster to kind of like believe that the coffee is so interesting to buy it and invest the money in something that can be, difficult then for the end customers, right? But yeah, sorry to interrupt you with the greatest coffee that you had.
Oh, I personally love Kenya's. and I think
you are not the only one. I think.
Yeah, I think it's a big favorite of the industry, and I think they have the greatest coffees in the world for my taste. Mm-hmm. And I love. Now we have one coffee from Kirinyaga, QNU, which is really nice in terms of. It's not the typical Kenya because the varieties this is only SL34. Mm-hmm. Typically, Kenya comes SL28 and SL34. This one is 100% SL34 and gives a more kind of floral, delicate, elegant profile. It's really nice in filter. Yeah, that's
very good. Okay, so
what's yours?
Well, I have a few. Honestly, for me, still some Yirgacheffe. Ethiopia Yirgacheffe. They are pretty nice coffee, and also we had a kaffa from the slightly different region in Ethiopia that were really very, very beautiful. I'm looking forward to taste some of the coffee after the festival, because usually on the festival, there is not enough time to cup all the samples, but definitely, I think there will be a lot of cuppings after the festival with the samples from the festival. Okay, I wanted to ask something. So there is now a lot of talks about the drought in Brazil, super dry season over there. Some regions say, well, they will lose up to 30% of their production, which for the country that has the biggest production of Arabica is really very, very difficult. I would like to ask if you see any kind of change which is connected to the climate or something like that. If you feel it from your origins, what the farmers are experiencing, and if you can talk a little more about it and how it affects the coffee itself.
Well, you can definitely notice a change in climate in terms, there hasn't been a big catastrophe in Panama, like no hurricane or big drought, but one of the things you really notice the last 2 to 3 years is that the flowering happens at very different times than before and very uneven also. So you can hardly say anymore that before it was always May, second half of May was the flowering time. That also determines that harvest starts at beginning of December and goes till April. Well, that's not the case anymore. The flowering can happen anytime between mid-April and mid-June maybe, which also makes the ripening of the beans, of the cherries, very spread over a bigger time period. For example, that affects them because they have, for the harvest season, a lot of pickers, of course, come to the country. People that they don't need, the labor that they don't need during the year. So harvest starts a month earlier, and the farms are all standing there without pickers to pick the ripe cherries, as one example. And then maybe more lighter things are like that there's a very wet season when it shouldn't be very wet. In Panama, it's generally very wet, but for example, between January and April, which is harvest and processing season, it's normally dry season, summer, which, for example, in the area of Boquete last year, there hasn't been one dry week. So also a big challenge for processing coffee, especially naturals. But yeah, so you can definitely feel the effects.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely the patterns are changing. Everywhere in the world, I get to travel to Africa, Indonesia, South America, and the raining seasons are changing. The flowering of trees, the whole standard of the coffee production at the farm is changing. This is a reality, and it's happening now. The good thing is that the farmers are very flexible people, and they adapt. They have to, but they are kind of, they don't feel any trouble, like it's not raining now, it'll rain later, and they adapt their whole schedule to the raining of the climate. And this is, I think, it's a great characteristic of the human being, you know, adaptability, and to everything. So this is a wonderful thing to see at the farm level. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I would like to ask if anyone has a question from the audience, so we can switch to the questions from the. No one would like to ask anything? No?
Okay, so how hard is to get coffee from our farmers to your roasters, for example?
So, who would like to pick this one?
If you know something about it.
It's pretty easy. You you buy it from them, you load it on a container. Basically, that's all done by a logistics company anyway. So they load it on the container, ship it over, and import is also pretty easy and straightforward.
No problem.
No, logistics-wise, not. So
I think Ushi really pick up a good country to make a coffee business with. I think you will have a totally different experience from Africa, but I just will tell you one story before you start. We have a really very nice coffee from Nicaragua that we're supposed to have here on the festival that is still in the container in Hamburg, already 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. And it's because the logistic company exporting it from Nicaragua, they put it as on accredited, you know, like they put it to the bank, and actually they put it to 2 banks. So to get the money from 2 banks, not only from one bank. So, and what happened, of course, is that at the moment that the company that we actually ship it together with wanted to get the coffee, so the other bank told, "Come on, we still have you still owe us the money for the coffee." But they said, "Well, we already paid to one bank." And so there are different challenges in the coffee business. What about the African logistic with the coffee?
Yeah, well, Africa is complicated in terms of logistic because, for example, Rwanda and Burundi are not
inland,
landlocked countries. So to get to a port from Rwanda and Burundi, you have to go 2,000 kilometers through Kenya or through Tanzania. In roads that are not paved, you know, and sometimes can happen that pirates will steal the coffee from the truck, you know, or you have to go through savannah. You know, it's a complicated landscape, but there are good logistic companies that you can rely on and will take your coffee from Burundi, Rwanda to the port of Mombasa or Tanzania. Then in the port you have another problem because African ports are not as efficient as Hamburg, or so. But with a lot of patience, you can make it, and it's possible. But this logistic to take the coffee from the farm to the port and then bring it to Europe is a lot of work, you know. And this has something to do with the now very famous term direct trade, where the roasters want to buy coffee directly from the farm, you know. Sometimes...
Or at least they would like to sell the coffee saying... No, it's
yeah.
Because it's a kind of like buzzword. Like everyone say, like, yeah, we are a small roaster we sell a few hundred kilo, but we have a direct trade coffee. I mean, in your case, you have one company that supply with the coffie, and you are very.
I don't really consider our coffee as direct trade, which is something that, well, in a way, I think that. I'm sorry.
No. It's okay. It's okay. You should.
Yeah, in a way, it is. It's fairly close to us how we get our coffees, but still, I don't really like the term in general, and I think like. Throughout the coffee supply chain, there's always a professional who should be there, and cutting the middleman in a way is an illusion. And then there always has to be, in a way, an importer, exporter, just to get the coffee out of the country. And then also what's important for an importer, they have to take responsibility to also, when they talk about long relationships, to actually to be able to work with the farmers, so that the farmers also know how to better their quality and know what the market is for their coffee in Europe or States or wherever.
I have one more question too, because you say that you are actually, with the logistic, you are bringing, let's say, few lots from within the country, right?
Yeah, but I would like to finish the idea with the direct trade, because I'm against this term, because I think being a roaster is a very hard job, you know. It takes a lot of time to find the right profile, buy your coffees, you know, sell your coffee, find new clients, you know. And logistic and sourcing coffee is also a hard work, you know. So one roastery has to be very well organized and have the whole structure in terms of, you know, organizational structure to do the both jobs, which are really huge jobs, in a good way, you know. I've seen many roasteries here in Europe trying to go for the direct trade, and they end up broke, you know. They disappear after a few years because it's a hard work to do it. So sometimes trying to cut the middleman ends up being more expensive for them.
No, I mean, yeah, sure.
Sorry, but I like the term direct trade, and I think it has still got a very positive connotation, and we should keep it that way. It's not a logistical term where you say, just because there's an import in the middle, it's not direct trade. Like, we really see ourselves as a facilitator for the roasters to have direct trade relationships, because what does it mean? It means you know exactly who you're buying from, you know where the money goes, you know which money gets to that place, you know what you get for it. You have the possibility to have a direct communication with the other side, the farmer with the roaster with the farmer. And it's actually, I think we should make more use of that term that still is very positive. And it shouldn't be so strict to say, just because there is someone in the middle, it can't be direct trade. I think it's more seen from the other side, that direct trade versus buying from the stock exchange or...
No, but sorry, I was talking about when the roaster goes to origin to do the whole thing. But I do the same thing. But this is the term, I believe. I don't know. The direct trade is when the roaster goes to origin.
Yeah, well, I think for many of the roasters, it's really important that they present the coffee as a direct trade, that they actually build this story as a relationship to the farmer, and I think it's okay. On the other hand, I really feel that they really should try to do it, honestly, in a way, like to be really with to try to visit the farmer, try to really to understand what is the entire picture about, that it's not only like, okay, I write the email to Ushi and that means, that's it, and I'm not taking care. I don't care who really produce it, And then there are roasters who does it, and
you can still do that, but doesn't mean you need to do the logistics yourself.
No, and also I understand your point, but I think also there are roasters simply who are looking for this part of the story, and that's not about that they don't want to work with you. It's more that they really look for something that is even more maybe meaningful for them and for their employees, to be part of the project that is, let's say, beyond the only buying a coffee. And there are, plenty of things that maybe it's also a question for the green coffee traders, if like they can provide something that is, more meaningful for a type of project, like small project, with the coffee, with the coffee buyers, with roasteries, because there are plenty of these projects. Like, okay, glasses for, let's say, glasses for in Rwanda. I know about one social project over there, or schools, or water sources in Africa, and so on and so on. So I think it can be really beneficial on both levels. On the level of the roaster that really is looking for very exact result of what is the impact what they are doing there, or what is the coffee used for. For me as a roaster, many years ago, it was really very emotional atmosphere to come to the village in Guatemala that they say, well, actually you are buying 1/3 of their entire coffee, you know, and then you suddenly you are there. You do not think about it, basically, but then you are sitting during the lunch and say, oh, so this is like 1/3 of the entire money that goes here. It comes from our roaster. It's perfect. It's great, you know. And then you really feel kind of like satisfaction that the work has kind of logic which is beyond the Excel sheet, you know.
I think what you say is beautiful and it's very romantic in a way. Yeah, the idea of telling and living the story behind the cup. It's wonderful. But I just want to tell the roasters that it's not easy to make it, and you need an organizational structure to be able to do it right and to do it well. You know, I agree with that. But also, we as importers need to provide to micro roasteries that don't have the means to go to origin, provide the story. You know, I don't know, with the photos, with blogs, with videos, whatever. A big part of my job, I feel, is being able to tell the full information to the roaster, the traceability, the history, and connect the roaster with the farm, with the origin.
How actually change your work with all the social media and all this, you know, all this from the old, I don't know how old are your companies, but like from the old type of companies that they send like every a month, you know, a newsletter. I mean the price list, and nowadays when the roasters are looking for more pictures, videos, and more personalized stuff. Does it change anything for you, or?
I can't say change because we started with 5 years ago, so nothing that much has changed. Again, we try to provide most direct channels of.
But maybe actually you started because you are competing these old companies, you know, that are doing this like old model style, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easier to inform about origin and nowadays than it was before, and to show people where it comes from, and but we really try to push also the personal connection. We sell a lot of competition coffees, or people come to us for competition coffees, and most of them end up at some stage speaking to the farmer directly. They just call or Skype, or most of them speak English, so we try to really foster that exchange, and also when we bring people there. And
I believe that the photos and the videos are extremely important nowadays. So everything entered through an image. Now people don't have much time to read a blog about the farm. So we in Kilimanjaro, we try to do videos. Like in every trip I go to origin, I film and then I edit them, and I try to tell. I did a video about the double fermentation in Kenyan processing. Then another one about the potato defect in Rwanda. You know, so it's a fast, quick way to teach people or to show the roasters how things are at the farm level. You know.
Okay. Sure. We have a question. Like the waves.
The difference, what kind of fashion or waves?
Yeah, well.
Well, as a coffee shop owner, I could say that people are very open nowadays, and even in a city like Berlin, which hasn't been a quality coffee city for such a long time to be a big, like a European capital, almost anything goes. Like if it's a good quality coffee, it sells, and well, people have preferences for sure, but it's not a shock effect to offer natural roast coffees or almost anything. Like I think it's very open. Maybe it's just a Berlin
I think I definitely can say that there are waves, like a kind of fashion. There was Ethiopia a few years ago. There was Kenya a few years ago. Now there was Rwanda last year. There is definitely Brazil, which will be interesting with the drought over there. So there are definitely like kind of new coffees coming there. Partly it's also because there is a great amount of work done over there. Like there was a huge project of the TechnoSurf and supported by Nespresso in Ethiopia that actually brought a lot of new washing station to the market. It was a great, like phenomenal coffee. So I think it pretty much depends, and definitely there is a constant fame of Panamas. You know, they are working hard on it to do new varieties and new processing and even like better and better quality. So I hope the 100-point scale will still fit. You know, but the question is, if it's just a fashion or if it's a taste. From my perspective, it's more fashion than a taste, you know. Even, I think, let's say that with a Kenya, some people get, and it's maybe just my like social bubble, you know. Some people get tired from this, you know, super fruity Kenyas that you went everywhere and everywhere. One had like the same Kenya. I mean, not the same type, but same type of profile, you know. So I think the people are looking for different tastes, and I would be really happy, and that's also a part of the festival, that you really have a chance to taste dozens of different samples from the different, you know, from different roasters and so on.
Yeah, I also think it's a trend in a way. Like it changes, but it also has an effect on farm level in a way. Geishas have been really respected, used in competitions, and also farmers see that they make a good profit when they can sell geishas. And it has led to a situation where people are getting rid of the old Katura trees or whatever they have been planted before and replacing with geisha. And it doesn't necessarily work out. I think it's also it's a huge problem in a way. Well, not a huge problem, but it's definitely going to change the coffee into more. It's becoming more uniform in a way. What people are willing to plant, and it's not necessarily sustainable since all the varietals don't have the resistance for plant diseases. They don't fit everywhere. It's the trends have also direct
like results on the farm. But I think also it's a question of kind of like relationship, and I think this is pretty much why you are so much important on the other level for the farmers themselves, like that you actually provide them with a lot of like feedback and a lot of information from the market. So yes, on one hand they can see that someone bought a geisha for $50 a kilo, but on the other hand they know that it's a very complicated variety. It doesn't, you know, produce like the amount of the coffee from the same tree, you know, is different to the other varieties. It's maybe less resistant to certain type of things. So I think it's really important to, you know, to communicate between the different players in the game.
Exactly.
And to really to give a very open feedback to the different parts of the processing and the farmers and so on. We actually tried this year to bring one farmer over from Nicaragua. It didn't work out. Last year we had a farmer from Brazil, and we had one gentleman from Panama as well. So we hope that the next year we will have some farmers from different parts of the world. Maybe I would like to ask if there is another question from the audience. And the guests are still here. I mean, if after this discussion you would like to buy a few containers So of Panama, of course, then from Roberto from Kilimanjaro. They are open to your questions, and they are open to your asks. You can also, I think you brought some coffee, right?
Yeah, we bought some. And actually we're brewing at the brew bar too at the moment. There's the Geshubi as well.
So you can still
sure.
grab your great coffee up in brew bar number 2. Thank you very much for your great comments and great thoughts. It was a really pleasure, and thank you for coming to Prague Coffee Festival. Thank you for coming to Prague Coffee Festival and all the questions and the willingness to sit today afternoon in this underground bunker and thinking about coffee. Definitely, there will be another discussion, sadly, in Czech at 4:30. And it's Saturday. At 3:30, which is in 20 minutes, and then there will be one lecture at 3:30, and there will be more cuppings and stuff for you. So thank you again. It was a pleasure, and enjoy and have a nice Sunday.